A young billionaire on the brink of death asked a homeless girl to pretend to be his daughter for 24 hours. But in his final moments, she reveals a secret that shocks the entire medical team. William Foster always knew that one day that envelope would arrive. It was a certainty he had carried ever since his father, and then his older brother, had passed the same way. Victims of a silent enemy that seemed to pursue the men in his family. Yet knowing this did not make it any easier to face the laboratory's letterhead lying on his desk for the past 3 days. The city was waking up lazily on that October morning, and from his office on the 20th floor, William observed the people below, tiny dots hurrying along, unaware of the drama unfolding high above them. His fingers drummed on the manila envelope in a nervous dance that betrayed his outward calm. "Enough," he murmured to himself, tearing the seal in one quick motion. His eyes, trained by years of reading contracts and legal documents, swiftly scanned the medical report. Though he knew what to look for, his heart still skipped a beat when he found it. Advanced metastasis. Prognosis, 3 months. At best, he would spend Christmas in a hospital bed. William picked up the phone, dialing a number etched permanently in his memory. "Dr. Martinez, yes, I got the results. I need to see you in person." The oncologist's office smelled of antiseptic and resignation. William knew that environment well. He had accompanied his father there for months. The same beige walls, the same bland paintings, even the same expression on the doctor's face when he removed his glasses to speak. "So you waited too long to get the tests, Mr. Foster," said Dr. Martinez, his voice bearing that specific tone doctors use to deliver bad news. "The tumor has spread aggressively. It's reached vital organs." "What are my options?" William asked, though he already knew the answer. "We can try some palliative treatments, but it would only—" The doctor hesitated. "Buy me a few weeks, William finished. "I understand." Leaving the hospital, the world seemed to have changed. The colors looked different, the sounds sharper, as if his senses were desperately trying to absorb everything they could in the time he had left. At a traffic light, a young couple crossed the street pushing a baby stroller, and William felt a pang in his chest that had nothing to do with his illness. "To Dr. James's office," he instructed his driver, deciding he couldn't postpone that conversation. The building where his friend and attorney worked was one of the first projects of William's real estate empire. As the elevator climbed, he reflected on how much time he had devoted to constructing buildings, forgetting to build something far more important: a family. James was on the phone when William walked in, but one look at his friend's face was enough for him to quickly end the call. "Will." "What a nice surprise," he smiled, though his smile faltered when he noticed the somber expression of his visitor. "What happened?" William walked to the window, looking out at the city he had helped shape. His eyes swept across the office walls, decorated with photographs of happy families. James specialized in family law, an irony that did not go unnoticed. "I need you to organize some things for me," he began, choosing his words carefully. "Legal matters that have to be resolved in the next 3 months. James frowned, processing the information. 3 months? Why that specific time frame?" "Because it's all the time I have left," William replied, his voice calmer than he had expected. The silence that followed was broken only by the distant sounds of the city. James opened his mouth to say something, but was cut off by a commotion coming from the street. Both approached the window, watching as 2 security guards tried to chase away a ragged-looking girl from the building's entrance. William watched the scene with growing interest. The girl could be no more than 12, and there was something about her face and framed by dark, disheveled hair that struck him as strangely familiar. Even after being driven away, she didn't leave. She simply sat on a nearby bench, hugging her knees to her chest. "Does she come here often?" he asked, without taking his eyes off the lonely figure below. "For a few weeks," James replied, clearly unsettled by the change of subject. We need to talk about your tests, about what we can do." "You know what's funny?" William interrupted him, an idea starting to form in his mind. I've spent my entire life building places for other people to live, raise families, live their lives. And I never stopped to build that for myself." His eyes remained fixed on the girl below, who had now taken a tattered book out of her backpack and was reading, oblivious to the looks of passers-by. Something in that scene, her solitude echoing his own, awakened in William a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. Purpose. "Maybe," he said, more to himself than to James, "there's still time to do something that really matters." James approached his friend, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Will, you're not thinking straight. We need to focus on your treatment, on your options." "My options?" William laughed without humor. "Did you hear what I said? 3 months, James. There are no options to consider." Their discussion was interrupted by James's secretary, who came in with a folder of documents. William took the opportunity to say goodbye, promising to come back the next day to handle legal matters. As he left the building, he paused for a moment, watching the girl who was still reading on her bench. She looked up briefly, meeting his gaze. It was only an instant, but William felt something indescribable, like fate was giving him one last gift, one last chance to make a difference. In his car, on the way home, William made a decision. He would not spend his remaining months in a hospital surrounded by doctors and nurses. He would not waste what little time he had left on treatments that would only prolong his suffering. No, he would use this time to do something meaningful, something that could, in some way, make up for the years he had wasted chasing only material success. He grabbed his phone and typed a message to James. "Tomorrow, when I come back, I have a different proposal to discuss. Something that will change everything." He put the phone away and leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes. For the first time since he had opened that envelope, William Foster smiled. Maybe the end wasn't really an end. Maybe it was just the beginning of something much greater. For 3 days, William observed the girl. From his office window, he saw how she always arrived around 9 in the morning, carrying a worn-out backpack that seemed to contain all her belongings. Sometimes she read a battered book. Other times, she simply watched people pass by, as though studying their patterns and routines. The security guards had given up chasing her away. The girl never caused trouble, never begged for money. She merely occupied her small spot on the bench in front of the building. William noticed that she always wore the same jacket, far too thin for the fall turning into winter, and that her dark hair desperately needed a cut and a comb. On the morning of the 4th day, rain was falling mercilessly on the city. From his office high above, William searched for her in her usual spot, but the bench was empty. Then he saw her, huddled in the entryway of a closed shop across the street, trying to shield herself from the cold droplets. Something inside him broke. "Cancel all my appointments for today," he instructed his secretary over the intercom. "All of them?" William grabbed his umbrella and went down. In the elevator, his reflection in the mirrored wall made him pause for a moment. His impeccable suit, the expensive watch on his wrist, all the symbols of a life devoted to amassing wealth. And what good had it done? The rain was heavier when he stepped out of the building. He crossed the street with determined strides, approaching the girl who now hugged her knees, shivering with cold. "Hey," he called gently, shielding her with his umbrella. She looked up, startled. Up close, William noticed her deep brown eyes, distrustful but intelligent. There was something familiar in them that tightened his chest. "No need to be afraid," he said, staying back just enough not to frighten her further. "It's too cold to stay out here. How about a hot chocolate?" The girl remained silent, studying him with that penetrating look that seemed to see right through his successful businessman facade. "There's a cafe right on the corner." William pointed to a cozy establishment across the street. "We can sit by the window where everyone can see us. What do you say?" For a moment he thought she would refuse, but then her stomach growled audibly, and a slight blush tinged her pale cheeks. "Why?" she finally asked, her voice firmer than he expected. William considered lying, making up some story about charity or kindness, but something in those eyes demanded honesty. "Because I'm dying," he answered simply. and because you remind me of someone I knew a long time ago." The girl blinked, surprised by his candor. Slowly, she got up, still keeping a safe distance. "I'm William," he introduced himself, starting to walk toward the cafe. To his relief, she followed. The cafe was warm and inviting, smelling of cinnamon and freshly brewed coffee. William chose a table by the window, fully visible to the passers-by. The girl sat so that she could see both him and the door, a habit that spoke volumes about her life on the streets. "What would you like?" he asked, handing her the menu. She hesitated, her eyes scanning the prices before muttering, "Just hot chocolate." "And a sandwich," William signaled to the waitress. "Actually, bring 2 sandwiches and a side of fries, and hot chocolate for both of us." As they waited, the silence between them was punctuated only by the sound of rain on the window and the soft murmurs of the cafe. "Emily," she said suddenly. "Sorry. My name, it's Emily." William felt something stir in his chest, not the pain he was getting used to, but something else. Hope, perhaps. "Emily," he repeated, savoring the name. "I have a proposal for you, Emily. And I promise it's going to sound completely crazy." She tilted her head, intrigued, as the waitress arrived with their food. William waited until Emily took her first bite of the sandwich, which she tried, unsuccessfully, to eat slowly and politely before continuing. "How would you like to be my daughter for a day?" Emily stopped chewing, her eyes wide. 24 hours, William continued quickly. "You'd have a room all to yourself, warm clothes, 3 decent meals, and then, if you want to leave, I won't stop you. You can even keep the clothes and anything else you need." "Why me?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. William looked out the window, watching the rain that kept falling. "Because I'm alone. Because I have a house that's too big and too little time, and because when I look at you, I see a chance to do something right before the end." Emily set down her sandwich, studying him with that intensity that seemed unusual for someone so young. "What if I say no? Then we finish our hot chocolate, you take the other sandwich for later, and we never have to see each other again," he replied honestly. "It's your choice, Emily. It will always be your choice." Emily turned her attention to the hot chocolate, stirring the spoon slowly as she thought. The rain continued tapping against the glass, creating fleeting patterns she seemed to follow with her eyes. "A whole day?" she finally asked. "And then I can leave?" 24 hours, William confirmed. "And yes, you'll have total freedom to go afterward." Emily bit her lip, a gesture that made her look even younger. "Why should I trust you?" William took out his wallet and removed a business card, placing it on the table. "This is James Thompson, my attorney. You can call him right now if you want. He'll confirm who I am." The girl picked up the card, studying it carefully before putting it into the pocket of her tattered coat. Her fingers drummed on the table for a few seconds, a rare display of nervousness. "Is there heating?" she asked suddenly. "In the house, yes, in every room. And can I take a hot shower?" William felt his heart constrict. "As many hot showers as you want." Emily looked out the window once more, watching the rain now coming down harder. A distant rumble of thunder seemed to relax her shoulders, as if nature itself had made the decision for her. "Okay," she said softly, turning to face him again. "But if you try anything—" "You have my card and James's," William interrupted gently. "And I promise your safety will be my priority." Emily nodded, finishing her hot chocolate in one last gulp. William noticed she discreetly wrapped the second sandwich in a napkin and stowed it in her backpack, a habit of someone who had learned never to waste food. When they left the cafe, the rain had eased to a light drizzle. William waved to his driver, and soon a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. "Last chance to change your mind," he said, opening the car door for Emily. The girl hesitated for a moment, clutching the strap of her old backpack. Then, with a determination that seemed larger than her small frame, she climbed into the car. William followed, noticing how she sat as close as possible to the door, keeping an easy escape route. "Home, Robert?" he instructed the driver. As the car glided through the city's wet streets, William watched Emily's reflection in the tinted window. Her face held a mixture of fear and hope, the same expression he was trying to hide. 24 hours. That was all he had promised, all she had agreed to. But as the car approached his house, William could not shake the feeling that those next 24 hours would change their lives forever. William's apartment occupied the top 2 floors of one of the city's most exclusive buildings. When the private elevator opened directly into the living room, Emily stood on the threshold, her eyes scanning the place with a blend of awe and distrust. "You can come in," William said softly. "This will be your home for the next 24 hours. Emily took a hesitant step forward, her muddy sneakers leaving marks on the Italian marble floor. She noticed and stepped back, but William waved it off. "Don't worry about that. Would you like to see your room first?" She nodded, still clinging to her backpack as though it were a shield. William guided her down a corridor adorned with abstract paintings that probably cost more than a car. Here, he opened a door, revealing a suite larger than any space Emily had ever called her own. The bathroom is in there. There's hot water, clean towels, and, well, everything you need. Emily entered the room slowly, as if expecting it to disappear at any moment. Her fingers lightly touched the soft bedspread on the king-size bed, and William noticed a tremble in her lips. "I'll arrange for some clothes," he said, trying to give her a moment of privacy. "How about a hot shower in the meantime?" Can I lock the door?" Emily asked, her voice almost a whisper. "All the doors have locks," William confirmed. "And you have complete privacy. I'll be in the living room when you're done." The moment the door closed, William heard the click of the lock. He smiled sadly. That sound spoke volumes about the life Emily had led so far. In his office, he made a few quick calls. The first was to a department store that offered home delivery, the second to his favorite restaurant. When he returned to the living room, he could hear the sound of the shower running. 15 minutes passed, then 30. After 45 minutes, William began to worry, but resisted the urge to knock. Emily needed this moment. Nearly an hour later, the bedroom door opened. Emily emerged wrapped in a white robe that was too big for her, her dark hair still dripping. Her face was flushed from the hot water, and for the first time, William could see how pale her skin was beneath the layers of street grime. "Feel better?" he asked gently. Emily nodded, and a small smile, the first one, appeared on her lips. The water didn't run out. The simplicity of that observation made William's chest tighten. How many times had this girl dreamed of a single hot shower without limits? The doorbell rang, making Emily flinch instinctively. "It's just the clothes," William explained quickly. "I ordered a few things for you to choose from. Dinner should be here soon, too." A courteous saleswoman entered, pushing a rack with various clothing options. Emily watched in astonishment as the woman arranged everything in her room. Outfits, shoes, even pajamas. "You can pick whatever you like," William said when the saleswoman left. "Everything there is yours." Emily touched a blue cashmere sweater as if it were made of gold. All of it," he confirmed. "I'll let you get dressed. When you're ready, we can have dinner." In the living room, William watched the city lights come on as night fell. The sound of soft footsteps made him turn around. Emily stood there, wearing new jeans and the blue cashmere sweater she'd admired. She had combed her hair, which now fell in dark waves around her shoulders. "It's perfect," he smiled. Dinner arrived soon after, a selection of dishes William thought a child might enjoy. Pasta, grilled chicken, potatoes, buttered vegetables. Emily sat at the formal dining table looking tiny in the tall-backed chair. "Eat as much as you want," William said, noting how she eyed the abundance of food. "And any way you like." Emily needed no further encouragement. She began to eat with a hunger she tried, unsuccessfully, to hide behind polite gestures. William pretended not to notice when she discreetly stashed a piece of bread in the sleeve of her new cashmere sweater. "Tomorrow," he said casually, pouring himself some water. "I thought we might go buy a few more things." "You'll need a warmer coat for winter." Emily's fork stopped mid-air. "But our deal was just for today." "And it still is," William assured her. "But the clothes are yours no matter what you decide tomorrow." Emily lowered her gaze to her plate, now half-eaten. "Why are you doing all this?" William considered his response for a moment. "Because when I was your age, I promised myself that if I ever had the means, I would help someone the way people helped me." Emily looked up, surprised. You went through hard times too." "More than I like to remember," William replied, pushing his plate aside. "I lost my parents very young. If it hadn't been for a few good people who crossed my path..." He let the sentence trail off, lost in memories. "What happened after that?" Emily asked, her curiosity overcoming her shyness. "I studied hard, worked even harder, built all this." He gestured around the apartment. "But you know something? Sometimes a hot meal and a safe place to sleep are worth more than all these expensive paintings." Emily nodded, understanding. Her gaze wandered around the luxurious living room until it stopped on the grand piano by the window. "Do you play?" she asked. William smiled. "I used to. It's been a while." He stood up and walked to the instrument. "Want to hear?" Emily followed, sitting on the edge of the piano bench as William took his seat. His fingers touched the keys softly, and the first notes of Fur Elise filled the air. "My mom," Emily began, then stopped, biting her lip. William kept playing, giving her space to continue or not. "She used to hum this song," Emily finished quietly, her voice almost a whisper. William noticed how her eyelids were growing heavy, the day's exhaustion finally catching up. "I think it's bedtime," he said gently, closing the piano lid. Emily didn't protest when he led her back to the bedroom. She paused at the door, hand on the doorknob. "William?" "Yes?" "Thank you for all of this." "Good night, Emily," he smiled. "Sleep well." Later, in his own room, William could hear the silence of the apartment that, for the first time in years, didn't feel empty. He picked up his phone and typed a message to James. "Remember when you asked what I plan to do with the time I have left? I think I finally found the answer." He placed the phone on the bedside table and closed his eyes. The pain in his chest, a constant presence in recent days, seemed a little less important now. In the room across the hall, a girl who trusted no one had locked her door and, for the first time in a long while, would sleep in a warm, safe bed. Sometimes, William thought before drifting off, 24 hours can be enough to change two lives. William woke to the smell of coffee. For a moment, he was disoriented. He hadn't woken up to that aroma in years, not since his housekeeper had retired. Then he remembered Emily. He found her in the kitchen, on her tiptoes, trying to reach the shelf with the cups. She wore the same jeans as the day before, but had swapped the sweater for a simple t-shirt. "Good morning," he said, causing her to startle. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you." I just thought I'd make some coffee," Emily replied, stepping back from the shelf. "But I shouldn't have touched your things." "It's no problem." William grabbed 2 cups and set them on the counter. "Actually, I was thinking of having breakfast out today. I know a great bakery nearby." Emily hesitated, looking at the coffee maker she had already turned on. William noticed her concern. "But since you already made coffee, it'd be a shame not to drink it," he added, sitting down at the counter. "Then we can go out afterward." The coffee was too strong, but William drank it without comment. Emily remained standing, sipping from her cup and watching him with that keen gaze that had become her trademark. "The 24 hours, she began, end exactly when?" "Technically at 2 in the afternoon, William said, checking his watch. "But like I said, you can stay longer if you want, or leave earlier." Emily nodded, processing the information. "And where are we going?" "I thought we'd buy a few things you'll need." "A decent coat for starters." William paused, feeling the familiar twinge in his chest. He ignored it. "Then maybe we can grab some ice cream." Emily's face lit up for an instant, before returning to its cautious expression. But William had noticed that brief moment of childlike happiness she tried to hide. Outside, Emily walked half a step behind William, her eyes alert to every movement around them. The shopping center was only a couple of blocks away, but she seemed nervous about going inside. "Too loud?" William asked, noticing her hesitation. "Too many people," she muttered. "We could go to a smaller store," he suggested. "There's one near here that—" A new, sharper pang made him stop mid-sentence. Emily noticed immediately. "Are you okay?" "I just need to sit for a minute," William said, finding a nearby bench. The world tilted slightly when he sat down. Emily stood awkwardly by his side, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, clearly torn between concern and her instinct to keep her distance. Finally, she sat beside him. "Is this why you're dying?" she asked in a low voice. "Yes," William replied, taking a deep breath as the pain subsided. "But don't worry, I still have some time." "How much?" "Enough to make sure you have a warm coat for winter," he smiled, rising slowly. "Shall we?" The store they chose was small and cozy. Emily tried on several coats until she found a navy blue one that looked like it was made just for her. When she looked in the mirror, a genuine smile broke free. "How you look like a real student now," William commented. Emily's smile faded. "I used to go to school before. I liked math." William absorbed that information carefully. It was the first time she had mentioned anything about her past voluntarily. "Ice cream?" he suggested, deciding not to press further. At the ice cream parlor, Emily chose double chocolate while William opted for vanilla. They sat at a table in the back, away from the hustle and bustle. "You never finished telling me," she said suddenly, "about how other people helped you when you were young." William watched his ice cream melt slowly. It wasn't easy. "But I got lucky. A teacher noticed I was good with numbers, got me a scholarship. Then I landed an internship that changed my life." "What about your parents?" "They died in an accident when I was 13. William paused, surprised by how long it had been since he talked about it. "Do you know why I'm telling you this?" Emily shook her head. "Because sometimes life is hard, but it doesn't have to be lonely." Emily stirred her ice cream, nearly melted by now. "Did you feel lonely after they died?" "Very," William admitted. "It was like the whole world moved on, except me." "I know how that feels," Emily muttered so softly that William almost didn't hear. Before he could respond, a fresh wave of pain hit him, more intense than before. He tried to hide it, but his hands shook, dropping his spoon. "Do you need a doctor?" Emily asked, alarmed. "No, it'll pass." He took a deep breath. "I just need a minute." Emily looked around as if seeking help, then did something unexpected. She reached for William's hand. Her touch was light, almost imperceptible, but it was there. When the pain subsided, William noticed silent tears running down Emily's cheeks. "Hey," he said gently. "No need to cry for me. It's not fair," she whispered. "You're the first person who cared," William completed softly. Emily nodded, letting go of his hand and quickly wiping her face with the coat sleeve. "Let's make a deal," William suggested, sitting up straight. "No more tears today. Instead, how about we stop by the park? I saw a swing set when we passed by." A small smile formed on Emily's face. "Aren't I too old for swings?" "You're never too old for swings," William teased. On the way back, Emily no longer walked half a step behind. She stayed beside William, occasionally glancing at him as if to make sure he was all right. When they reached the park, she actually laughed for the first time, a sound so pure and unexpected that William briefly forgot his pain. The agreed-upon 24 hours were nearly up, but neither of them mentioned it. Something new was in the air, a mutual understanding that went beyond deals and deadlines. Later, back at the apartment, William sent a message to James. "Need to see you tomorrow. I have an important decision to make." Emily decided to take another shower. "Because I can," she explained with a shy smile. William watched her disappear down the hall, carrying one of her new pajamas. The sound of running water soon filled the apartment, accompanied by a soft melody. Emily was humming. For the first time since receiving his diagnosis, William felt that maybe life still had something special in store. Even if his time was short, it might be enough to make a difference for someone. A scream cut through the quiet of the night like a knife. William woke with a start, taking a few seconds to realize where the sound was coming from. Then he heard it again. It was coming from Emily's room. He rushed down the hall, ignoring the pain the sudden movement caused. The door was locked. "Emily!" he called, knocking softly. "Emily, are you all right?" There was no answer, only muffled sobs. William rested his forehead against the door, feeling helpless. "Emily, it's me, William. You're having a nightmare. You're safe here." The crying subsided a bit. After a few moments that felt like forever, William heard the lock click. He opened the door slowly. Emily was curled up on the corner of the bed, hugging her knees. Her face was streaked with tears, her hair tangled from restless sleep. "May I come in?" William asked softly. She nodded, still trembling. William sat on the edge of the bed, keeping some distance. "Do you want to talk about it?" Emily shook her head no, then paused as if changing her mind. "It was about the orphanage," she whispered. William waited, letting her continue in her own time. "Sometimes," she went on, her voice so low he had to lean in to hear, "when the kids cried at night, they would lock us in the dark basement." The anger William felt was so intense, he had to breathe deeply to control it. "How long did they keep you there?" "In the basement or the orphanage?" she asked. "Both." Emily picked at a loose thread on the blanket, winding it around her finger. "In the basement. The longest was a whole night. In the orphanage," she hesitated. "For as long as I can remember, but I ran away 6 months ago." "And before the orphanage?" William asked gently. Emily's face closed off. "I don't want to talk about that." "That's okay," he assured her. "How about some hot chocolate?" She nodded, following him to the kitchen like a small shadow. William prepared 2 mugs while Emily sat at the counter, her bare feet swinging without reaching the floor. "You know," William began while the milk heated, "when I was a kid after my parents died, I had nightmares too." "What did you do?" "I learned to play piano," he smiled, pouring the chocolate. "Music helped push the fears away." Emily blew on her drink, thinking, "My mom, and she used to sing to me." It was the second time she'd mentioned her mother. William noticed how her eyes grew distant when she spoke of her. "What songs did she sing?" "I don't really remember," Emily answered too quickly. "It was a long time ago." William sensed the lie but didn't comment. Instead, he picked up his mug and walked over to the piano. Emily followed after a moment's hesitation. "Want to learn a simple tune?" he offered. Emily sat beside him on the bench, setting her mug on the piano. William showed her how to position her fingers, teaching her the basic notes of Ode to Joy. While she tried to repeat the sequence, William noticed a small scar on her wrist, partially hidden by the pajama sleeve. Emily realized he was looking and quickly pulled the sleeve down. "It was an accident," she muttered. "Emily," William said softly, "you know you can trust me, right?" She stopped playing, her hands trembling slightly above the keys. "You're going to die," she said abruptly, "just like everyone else." The harshness of that truth, stated so simply, hit William like a punch. "Yes," he admitted, "but not right now. Not today. Promise." "I promise." William played a few soft notes, "and I also promise that, for as long as I'm here, I'll do my best to protect you." Emily looked at him, her eyes glistening with tears she refused to let fall. "Why?" "Because sometimes people come into our lives exactly when we need them," William replied. "I needed to find you as much as you needed to find me." Emily pondered his words, her fingers idly pressing random keys on the piano. "At the orphanage," she began hesitantly, "there was a lady who sometimes brought us cookies. She was the only nice person there." "What happened to her?" "She stopped coming. Like everyone else, Emily shrugged, trying to appear indifferent, but William could see the hurt in her eyes. That's why I ran away. I got tired of people leaving. William felt the weight of those words. He would leave too, sooner than he wanted. But maybe he could do something different before that. Emily, he said gently, can I ask you something about your mother? She tensed immediately. I don't want to talk about her. All right, William relented. But if you ever do want to, I'll be here to listen. Emily yawned, the adrenaline from the nightmare wearing off. William noticed the dark circles under her eyes. Think you can go back to sleep? She bit her lip, clearly uneasy. What if the nightmare comes back? How about leaving a light on? I can play the piano softly until you fall asleep. Emily considered the offer. Could you play that piece from yesterday, the one my mum... She stopped, realizing she had revealed more than intended. For Elise, William smiled kindly. Of course. Back in her room, Emily tucked herself under the covers while William turned on the bedside lamp. The gentle notes of the piano drifted down the hall, creating a bubble of peace in the otherwise tumultuous night. Later, after making sure Emily was sound asleep, William returned to his own room. He picked up his phone and sent another message to James. I need you to look into an orphanage, and also I need more information on a woman named Anne. I'll explain tomorrow. Lying in bed, William could feel the familiar pain in his chest, but something stronger now, purpose. Maybe he couldn't change his fate, but he still had time to change Emily's. In the silence of the night, their shared secrets hovered like musical notes left hanging, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Emily woke up late the next morning, the sun already high. William had left a note in the kitchen. I went to take care of some things. Be back soon. There are pancakes in the oven. After breakfast, she began exploring the apartment more thoroughly. In William's office, a bookshelf packed with books caught her attention. Among volumes on economics and architecture, she found an old photo album. Meanwhile, in James's office, William discussed his plans. Are you sure about this, Will? James asked, concerned. It's a huge responsibility. Yes, I'm sure, but I need you to investigate a few things first. William's phone buzzed, a message from the housekeeper telling him Emily was going through the office. He wrapped up the conversation with James and headed home. He found Emily sitting on the office couch, an old photo album in her lap. His heart skipped a beat when he saw which page was open. Anne. The flashback hit him like a wave. 6 years earlier. It can't be that bad, William laughed, trying to make Anne taste the risotto he had prepared. You burned the rice, Will, she protested, her brown eyes gleaming with amusement. How does someone burn rice? He pulled her closer, kissing her neck. We can order Chinese. Again, she pretended to protest, but was already reaching for the phone. The afternoon sun came through the kitchen window, lighting up her dark hair with reddish highlights. William grabbed the camera. He always kept one handy back then. Smile, he said. Anne turned, that smile he loved so much brightening her face. Click. It would be their last photo together. Present. I'm sorry, Emily's voice brought him back. I shouldn't have been snooping. It's all right, William approached, sitting beside her. His eyes studied Emily's face, and, for the first time, he noticed the shape of her eyes, how her hair fell. How had he not seen it before? Who is she? Emily asked, looking at the photo. William picked up the picture carefully. Someone who was very important to me. What happened to her? She left, he answered simply, watching Emily's reaction. Sometimes people have their reasons. Emily kept staring at the photo, apparently unaware that William was scrutinizing her. But he noticed small details, the slight tilt of her head, exactly like Anne. The way she furrowed her brow when concentrating. A sharp pain in his chest caught him off guard. William leaned on the couch arm, trying to mask it. Are you okay? Emily asked, worried. I just need my meds, he managed. Top drawer. While Emily rushed to get the medication, William looked at the photo again, It couldn't be a coincidence. The timing, the similarities. He grabbed his phone and typed a message to James. "I need you to dig up anything about Anne, urgently. Also, look for records of a child." Emily returned with the pills and a glass of water. Her small hands trembled slightly as she helped him. "Thank you," he said, noticing how she bit her lip. Another gesture identical to Anne's. "Should I call a doctor?" William shook his head, putting the photo back into the album. He had so many questions, so many suspicions, but he couldn't confront her yet, not without proof. "How about we order Chinese?" he suggested, noting how her eyes, Anne's eyes, lit up. Later, after Emily went to bed, William stayed up looking at old photos of Anne on his laptop. Each image seemed to scream the truth his heart already suspected, but he needed absolute certainty before taking any action. His phone vibrated, James replying, "You won't believe what I found. We need to talk first thing tomorrow." William closed the laptop, his mind racing with possibilities. In the next room, Emily slept, unaware that her life was about to change forever. He got up carefully, walking to the window. The city sparkled below, thousands of lights dotting the darkness. Somewhere, at that very moment, Anne might be looking at the same sky. Why had she left? The question that had haunted him for 6 years now took on a new angle. If his suspicions were right, no, he needed solid proof before letting hope grow. A sound from Emily's room caught his attention. He approached silently, finding her tossing and turning, murmuring in her sleep. "Mom, don't go." William's heart clenched. Through the crack of the door, he watched her profile against the soft glow of the lamp. How had he not noticed before? The same delicate nose, the gentle arch of the brows, even the way she slept with a hand under her cheek, exactly like Anne. He went back to his office and picked up the photo again. His eyes caught a detail he hadn't noticed. A delicate necklace with a bird pendant around Anne's neck. William remembered giving it to her on her birthday. He picked up his phone and added to the message for James. "Specifically look for birth records between May and July, 6 years ago, and find out everything you can about that orphanage." The pain in his chest returned, milder this time, like a constant reminder his time was running out. William took a deep breath, carefully putting the photo away. "Tomorrow," he whispered. "Tomorrow we start putting this puzzle together." In his bedroom, lying on the bed but far from sleep, William let his mind wander through the what-ifs. What if Emily was indeed? If Anne had left because... If all this time... Fate had a strange sense of humor, he thought. Right now, when his time was nearly up, life presented him with this extraordinary possibility. But maybe that was exactly why Emily had crossed his path. His last thought before drifting off was a silent prayer, that he would have enough time to find out the truth, time to fix the past, time to give Emily the future she deserved. The doorbell rang during breakfast. Emily was devouring her pancakes with strawberries, her new favorite breakfast, when the sharp buzz made her jump in her chair. "I'll get it," William said, noticing her discomfort. But before he could reach the door, he heard a familiar, irritating voice from the foyer. "William, your doorman told me you're sick. Why didn't you tell us?" Sarah, his sister, entered the apartment like a whirlwind, followed by her husband, Richard. Emily immediately shrank in her chair, her eyes assessing the newcomers. "Sarah," William greeted curtly. "What a surprise." "Surprise?" Sarah arched a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "Is that how you welcome your only sister when she rushes over after hearing your—" She trailed off upon noticing Emily. "And who is this?" William instinctively placed himself between his sister and Emily. "This is Emily. She's staying with me." "Staying with you?" Sarah laughed, but her eyes were calculating. "Since when did you decide to adopt a— Watch what you say," William cut in, his voice dangerously calm. Sarah composed herself, forcing a smile. "Dear, we need to talk. In private. There's nothing you can't say in front of Emily." Another wave of pain hit William, causing him to lean against the wall. Sarah rushed forward, feigning maternal concern. "See? You're not well. You need care, family around. You can't worry about a child right now." Emily stood silently, her eyes fixed on William. "I'll go to my room," she murmured. "No," William said firmly, catching his breath. "This is your home now. You don't have to leave." Sarah watched the exchange with narrowed eyes. "William, be reasonable. In your condition." "How did you find out?" he interrupted. "About my condition? Dr. Martinez is a friend of Richard," Sarah replied, as though it were obvious. "He told us about the diagnosis. 3 months. William, why hide this from your family?" William felt a different wave of pain, emotional this time. Had Dr. Martinez violated patient confidentiality? Or had Richard snooped around his records? "Maybe," he said calmly, "because I knew exactly how you'd react." "How dare you?" Sarah placed a hand on her chest, offended. "We're your family. We're worried about you, about your interests." "My interests," William laughed without humor. "Or my inheritance." Richard, who had remained silent, took a step forward. "Now, William, that's not fair. Sarah just wants to help. And you have to admit, making big decisions at a time like this, such as bringing a stranger into your home." "Emily is not a stranger," William snapped, "and my decisions have never been clearer." Sarah cast a calculating glance at Emily, who watched in silence. "How much is she charging you? We can settle this quietly." Emily went pale. William felt his blood boil. "Get out," he ordered. "William, now!" His shout was followed by a violent coughing fit. William staggered, and this time it was Emily who rushed to help him. Sarah watched the scene with a mix of disdain and calculation. "This isn't over, little brother," she said, grabbing her purse. "You're clearly not in a position to make decisions. We'll handle this properly." After Sarah and Richard left, a heavy silence filled the apartment. William was still coughing, supported by Emily, who guided him to the couch. "Your meds," she said, running to fetch them. When she returned, William noticed her hands trembling slightly. "Emily," he called gently, "come here." She perched on the edge of the couch, tense. "I don't want to cause trouble." "You're not causing any trouble," William reassured her. "They are the—" Another wave of coughing cut him off. Emily quickly offered him water. "I need to call James," he managed between sips. "Right now." Emily handed him the phone. William typed quickly. "Sarah found out. We need to speed things up. Come as soon as you can." "They're going to make me leave?" Emily asked in a low voice. "No," William answered firmly. "They don't have that power. But she's your sister, and you're far more important than she is." Emily stared at him, surprised by the conviction in his voice. William seized the moment to really look at her. Anne's eyes. That same determined expression. He needed to protect her, and quickly. The intercom buzzed. It was James. "Send him up," William instructed. Then, turning to Emily, he said, "James is the only family I trust. He's here to help." While they waited, Emily moved a bit closer on the couch, a subtle but telling gesture of the trust she was choosing to place in him. "William," she asked hesitantly, "what did your sister mean by handle it properly?" "Nothing you need to worry about," he reassured her, though his mind was already racing with possibilities. Sarah never gave up easily, especially when money was involved. James arrived minutes later, carrying a thick folder. His face was serious. "We need to talk," he said, looking pointedly at William. "About a lot of things." William nodded, understanding what went unsaid. The discoveries about Anne would have to wait. They first needed to defend against Sarah. "Emily," William said gently, "could you give us a minute?" She stood, still hesitant. At the doorway, she turned back. "You promise?" she asked, her voice small. "Promise I won't have to leave?" "I promise," William replied, and at that moment he knew he would do anything to keep that promise. You're my family now. After Emily left, James opened his folder. Sarah has already taken legal steps. She's questioning your capacity to make decisions. William closed his eyes briefly. The war had begun, and he had so little time. But when he reopened them, determination shone there. Then we'd better strike first, he said, because I'm not letting Sarah or anyone take Emily away from me. Not now that I've finally found her. James raised an eyebrow at that last statement, but William just shook his head. One battle at a time. First, stop Sarah. Then, when they were safe, he could finally figure out if his suspicions about Emily were true. Sarah wasted no time. The next morning, William's apartment was besieged by another wave of concerned visitors. Michael, his older brother, arrived first, followed closely by Aunt Margaret. "Will, be sensible," Michael said, sitting in the living room as though he owned the place. "You're not thinking straight." William stood by the window, deliberately turning his back on his family. Emily had taken refuge in her room the moment she heard unfamiliar voices. "It's funny," William commented, his voice calm. "How long has it been since I've seen you all? 2 years? 3? "Oh dear," Aunt Margaret interjected, her perfume overpowering. "You know how busy life can be. But family is family." "Family," William repeated with a bitter smile. "And how much did Sarah pay you to come?" Michael stood, offended. "That's insulting. We came because we care." "You care about my money, you mean?" The tension in the room was palpable. Sarah, who had been strategically silent, finally spoke. "Will, we only want what's best for you. This girl, she came out of nowhere. How can you trust her?" William turned to face his sister. "And how can I trust any of you?" At that moment, a sound came from the hallway. Emily was there, pale but resolute. "Can I get you some water?" she offered politely. William's heart swelled with pride. Even frightened, Emily was trying to show she wasn't what they assumed. "No, dear, thank you," Aunt Margaret replied with fake sweetness. "But since you're here, why don't you tell us about yourself, about your family?" Emily froze. William stepped forward, but another voice interrupted. "I think that's enough interrogation for one day." James stood at the door, folder in hand. William hadn't noticed his arrival. "Oh, the attorney," Michael sneered, "always defending the wrong interests." "The only interests I defend are my clients," James replied calmly, placing his folder on the table. "And since you're all here, you can see this." He pulled out some documents. "This is a court order preventing any interference in William's personal affairs. And this," he produced another paper, "is a medical report attesting to his full mental capacity." "This is ridiculous," Sarah exploded. "He's sick. He can't." "He can," James interrupted. "And he will. Emily stays." "But she's a stranger," Michael protested. "No, she isn't," William answered firmly. "And if you keep pushing, you'll find out exactly how much power I still have." Sarah narrowed her eyes. "Is that a threat?" "I'm setting boundaries," William corrected. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm tired. James can show you out." Aunt Margaret rose, adjusting her expensive coat. "This isn't over, William." "Yes, it is," he replied. "Unless you want me to revise my will right now." The silence that followed was deafening. One by one, they left, shooting venomous glares at Emily, who stood strong beside William. As soon as the door closed, William staggered slightly. The strength he had shown was more front than fact. "Sit down," Emily urged, guiding him to the couch. The determination on her face reminded him so much of Anne that it hurt for more reasons than his illness. James locked the door and returned with a glass of water. "They won't give up easily," he warned. "I know," William replied, taking a sip. "Sarah has always been obsessive when it comes to money. And now she's got Michael and Margaret on her side." Emily sat near William, closer than usual, a small act of courage after what had just happened. "Why do they hate me so much?" she asked. "They don't hate you," William explained gently. "They hate what you represent. The possibility of losing the inheritance they believe they deserve." James cleared his throat, drawing William's attention. "There's more. Sarah hired a private investigator. William felt Emily stiffen beside him. To investigate Emily? James nodded. I've got people monitoring the situation. But he hesitated, looking significantly at William. They might find out things even we don't know yet. William understood the message. If his suspicions about Emily and Anne were correct, Sarah's investigation might reveal the truth first. I need some rest, William said, carefully standing. James, stay for dinner. We have a lot to discuss. Of course. Actually, James opened his folder again. I brought some documents we need to review about Emily's guardianship. Emily, who had been helping William stand, froze. Guardianship. Just a precaution, William reassured her, to make sure no one can take you away from here. Tears glistened in Emily's eyes, but she held them back quickly. William could see she was still fighting against hope, afraid it would all vanish any moment. I'll make some tea, she murmured, escaping to the kitchen. Once Emily left, James turned to William. What I found out about Anne, you need to see it soon. Not today, William replied, glancing toward Emily in the kitchen. First, we need to ensure Sarah can't interfere. Then, there might not be time then, Will. There will be, William said with more conviction than he felt. There has to be. That night, after James left and Emily went to her room, William stayed up reviewing the guardianship documents. Each line was a promise of protection, each clause a guarantee that Emily would have a secure future. In his bedroom, he took Anne's photo from the drawer. What did you do? He whispered to the smiling image. Why did you hide this secret? The answer, he knew, was close. But now there was a race, against time, against his family, against his own weakening body. William put the photo away and closed his eyes. In the next room, he could hear Emily shifting in her sleep. The sound comforted him, reminding him what was at stake. Tomorrow, he decided. Tomorrow he would begin digging into the truth about Anne. But today, his only concern was keeping Emily safe. One step at a time. One battle at a time. James arrived at the apartment early the next day, carrying an even thicker folder. Emily was at school, a decision William had made right after securing her provisional guardianship, and the apartment was quiet. I found her, James said without preamble as soon as he sat down. William, who had been gazing at the city through the window, turned slowly. Anne? Not exactly. James opened his folder. I found her records. William, she passed away 2 years ago. The world seemed to stop. William leaned against the wall, his legs weakening. How? Cancer, James replied softly. The same type you have now. William closed his eyes. The same cancer, the same genetic curse that had taken his father, his brother, and now... There's more, James went on, hesitantly. In her final months, she tried to contact you. What? William opened his eyes, shocked. What do you mean? James pulled some papers from the folder, letters, all returned. Apparently, Sarah intercepted them. Sarah? The anger in his voice was palpable. My own sister. She claimed she was protecting you, James explained, though his tone made clear his opinion on that. But Will, there's something even more important. He slid a document across the table, a birth certificate. Emily Ann Foster, William read aloud, his heart nearly stopping. Date of birth 9 months after Anne left. She was pregnant when she left, James confirmed. And there's more. The address of the orphanage where Emily stayed. It's the same place Anne spent her final days. William sank into a chair. All the pieces started to fit. The similarities, the gestures, that sense of familiarity from the first moment. Why didn't she tell me? He whispered. Maybe this will explain, James said, handing him a yellowed envelope. It's her last letter. Sarah didn't manage to intercept this one. With trembling hands, William opened the envelope. Anne's handwriting, though weaker than before, was still unmistakable. My dear Will, by the time you read this, I will probably be gone. The doctor says I don't have much time. and there are so many things that need to be said. Emily is your daughter, our daughter. I know I should have told you sooner, but when I found out I was pregnant, I also found out about the disease. The same cancer that took your father and brother was growing inside me. I couldn't sentence you to go through all that again, to watch someone you love waste away slowly. I thought I was protecting you. What a fool I was. Emily is extraordinary. Will. She has your eyes, your determination, and she inherited the best of both of us. I tried to find you when I learned my time was nearly over, but my letters kept coming back. Now I know why. Please, if there's still time, find our girl. Give her the love I couldn't. The letter ended abruptly. William realized his own tears were staining the paper. Where is she buried? He asked in a hoarse voice. St. Mary's Cemetery, James answered. Would you like to go there? William nodded, but before he could stand, a stabbing pain hit him, stronger than all the previous episodes. Will? James rushed to support him. I'm fine, William gasped, though his pale face said otherwise. I'm calling an ambulance. No, Emily. She'll be out of school in a few hours. I can't. You need a doctor, James insisted, already on the phone with emergency services. William had no strength to argue. The pain was too intense. James, he called as his friend spoke to the paramedics. Emily can't. No, not yet. Not like this. How am I supposed to explain your hospitalization? Tell her it's just a precaution, William breathed through the pain. And James, those guardianship documents, and are they ready? Yes, but bring them to the hospital. I need to sign before Sarah tries something. The ambulance arrived in 15 minutes, though it felt like an eternity to William. Every second was precious now. He had so much to do, so much to say. Call the school, he instructed James as the paramedics loaded him onto a stretcher. Tell them I'll pick Emily up later. Will, promise me, James. She can't come home to find no one there. James nodded, grabbing the documents about Anne and placing them in his briefcase. In the chaos, a small envelope fell to the floor, a photo of baby Emily in Anne's arms. Keep that, William said, his voice weak. It's not time yet. At the hospital, the doctors moved quickly. The pain subsided somewhat with medication, but from Dr. Martinez's expression, William could see how serious it was. We need to run more tests, the doctor said. The tumor might be... How long? William interrupted. Dr. Martinez hesitated. It's hard to say. How long? If we continue aggressive treatment, maybe a few weeks. But a few weeks will be enough. William closed his eyes. I just need time to do what has to be done. James walked in as soon as the doctor left. Emily is with my wife. I told her you had to travel on business and she'd stay with us for a few days. Did she believe it? No, James replied sadly. She's too smart for that. But she accepted it for now. William tried to sit up, but James gently stopped him. The documents, he said. I need to sign them now. While signing the papers that would guarantee Emily's future, William thought about Anne, about how she had faced the same battle alone, trying to protect him. Now it was his turn to protect what she loved most. James, he said when he finished signing, promise me you'll take care of her, that you'll tell her about Anne and about me when the time's right. You'll tell her yourself, James insisted, but his voice betrayed his uncertainty. William smiled weakly. You've always been a terrible liar, James. He closed his eyes, exhausted. Just don't let her think she was abandoned. Not by Anne, not by me. James stored the documents, now definitive and irrevocable. Out in the corridor, he could hear raised voices. Sarah had probably already learned of William's hospitalization. I'll keep Sarah away, James promised. Get some rest. But William was already slipping into a fitful sleep, haunted by images of Anne blending with Emily's face. Mother and daughter, so alike, so precious, and he, like Anne before him, racing against time to protect those he loved. In his pocket, James carried the photo that had fallen, the first and last image of Anne with her daughter. Soon, that photo would tell a story that would forever change Emily's life. But for now, it was just another secret, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Emily was nobody's fool. She knew something was wrong the moment James's wife showed up at school to pick her up. The story about William's business trip was obviously a lie. He could barely stand the day before. "I want to see William," she said as soon as she got into Claire's car. "Emily, honey, he's in the hospital, right?" Claire sighed, looking at the girl in the rearview mirror. "How did you know?" "He promised not to lie to me," Emily responded simply. "Please, take me there." Claire hesitated, but something in Emily's determination made her change course. At the hospital, they found James in the corridor arguing quietly with Sarah. "You have no right," Sarah was saying. "I'm his sister, and I have his power of attorney," James shot back. Then he saw Emily and went pale. "Emily, Claire, Where is he?" Emily asked, ignoring the adults trying to stop her. "This isn't the time," Sarah began, but Emily cut her off. "I'm not talking to you." James couldn't help a small smile. "Room 305, he said, ignoring Sarah's furious glare. "But Emily..." "He's weak." Emily was already heading down the hallway, her small-eyed, determined steps echoing on the sterile floor. She stopped at the door, her heart clenching at the sight of William hooked up to several machines. "Hey," he smiled faintly when he saw her. "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" "Don't lie to me," she pleaded, coming closer to the bed. "Ever?" William nodded slowly. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to protect you." "Like she tried to protect you." William froze. "What are you talking about?" Emily pulled something out of her pocket, the photo of Anne that had fallen from James's folder. "I found this on the floor of the apartment." Her voice trembled. She's my mother, isn't she?" For a long moment, only the beeping machines broke the silence. William studied Emily's face, so much like Anne that now it seemed impossible he hadn't seen it before. "Yes," he finally answered. "Anne was your mother." Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her small hands clutching the photo. "Why did she abandon me?" "She didn't abandon you," William replied softly. "She was sick. Like me. The same disease?" William nodded. Emily took in the information quietly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Did she try to find me?" she asked at last. "Every single day," another voice answered from the door. It was James, holding the folder of letters. "She wrote to William tirelessly in her final months." "But I never got the letters," William said, giving James a meaningful look. "Sarah," Emily guessed. It wasn't a question. James stepped forward, placing the folder on the bedside table. "There's something you need to see," he said gently. With trembling hands, Emily opened the folder. Inside were dozens of letters, all in the same delicate handwriting. She began reading the first one, her voice breaking. "My dear Emily, 5/24. Today you turned 5. I wonder how you must be. If you still have my eyes like when you were a baby. If you inherited your father's smile." William held Emily's hand as she read. James discreetly left the room, closing the door to give them privacy. "She loved me," Emily whispered, hugging the letters. "All this time, I thought." "She loved you more than anything," William affirmed. "So much that she did the same thing I tried to do. She wanted to protect you from the pain of watching someone you love go." Emily lifted her tear-streaked eyes. "How was she? Please tell me." William smiled, shifting in bed with effort. "She was incredible, stubborn, like you. She loved hot chocolate with a dash of cinnamon, had a laugh that could light up any room, and..." He paused, reminiscing. "And she played piano. For Elise was her favorite." "The song you played for me," Emily realized, finally understanding. "Yes. When I first saw you, something about you reminded me so much of her, but I couldn't pinpoint what. But I'm like you too," she said softly. William felt tears in his own eyes. "Yes, you are. Voices rose in the corridor again. Sarah was arguing with someone. "She's not going to separate us, is she?" Emily asked, alarmed. "No," William promised, squeezing her hand. "James already took care of everything. You're safe now, forever." Emily leaned her head on William's shoulder, still clutching Anne's letters. "Tell me more about her, please." And there, in the hospital room, between the sounds of machines and distant voices, William began to tell their story. He spoke of how he met Anne, of her dreams, her hopes. He spoke until his voice was hoarse, until Emily fell asleep, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. James found them like that an hour later, Emily asleep, still holding her mother's letters, and William watching her sleep with a serene smile despite his pain. "The test results came in," James said quietly. William nodded but didn't take his eyes off Emily. "Later," he murmured. "Right now, I just want this moment." And in that instant, as he watched his daughter sleep, William felt a peace he hadn't known in years. Anne had succeeded. Her last letter had finally reached its destination. And now, even if his time was short, he would do everything possible to complete the story she had begun. The DNA test results arrived on a grey autumn morning. William had been in the hospital for a week, his condition alternating between stable and worrying. Emily refused to leave his side, except when Claire took her home to sleep. James entered the room holding an official envelope, his expression unreadable. "Emily," he said gently, "can we have a minute?" The girl, who had been reading beside William's bed, hesitated. "It's okay," William assured her. "Just some boring documents." Emily agreed reluctantly, but stopped at the door. "Promise you won't lie to me again?" "I promise," William replied. "Come back in 10 minutes. As soon as she left, James opened the envelope. It arrived earlier than expected. William tried to sit up, ignoring the constant pain. And 99.9% compatibility, James read. "There's no doubt, Will. Emily is your daughter." Even though he already knew in his heart, the scientific confirmation hit William like a wave. Silent tears ran down his face. "There's more," James continued. "I got the full records from the orphanage. Anne spent her last months there, volunteering. She was close to Emily the whole time, even though the girl didn't know." "Why didn't she tell me?" William asked, more to himself than to James. "Maybe she explains in this." James took out another envelope from the folder. "We found it among her personal effects. It's addressed to Emily." The letter was sealed, kept all these years waiting for the right moment. William held it like something precious and fragile. "Call her," he asked. Emily returned, her sharp eyes assessing the charged atmosphere in the room. "Have a seat," William said, patting the side of the bed. When she did, he handed her the envelope. "This is for you." "From your mother." Emily's hands trembled as she took it. "Did you read it?" "No, it's just yours." Emily opened the letter carefully, as if afraid it might disintegrate. The handwriting was the same as the other letters, but stronger, from a time when the illness had not yet weakened Anne. "My beloved daughter, if you're reading this, it means you finally found your father, and knowing William as I do, I'm sure he's already discovered the truth. You must have so many questions, so much hurt. You have every right to hate me for keeping you two apart. But before you judge me, let me explain. When I found out I was pregnant, it was the happiest and most terrifying moment of my life. Happy because you were a miracle, the purest love I've ever known. Terrifying because that same day, I found out I had the same disease that took William's father and brother. I saw what that disease did to him, how it destroyed him to watch his family slip away, one by one. I couldn't condemn him to go through that again, not with the woman he loved, not with his own daughter. So I ran. It was the hardest decision of my life, but I promised myself that one day, when you were older, I'd tell you everything. Fate, however, had other plans. The disease progressed faster than expected. When I knew my time was short, I tried to find William, but my letters never got through. In my last months, I managed to volunteer at the orphanage just to be near you, to see you grow, even from a distance. You had no idea who I was, but each of your smiles, every little achievement, lit up my days. Emily, my little warrior, I hope one day you can forgive me. And William. He is the most incredible man I've ever known. Give him a chance. You both deserve each other. With eternal love, your mother, Anne. Emily let the letter fall onto her lap, tears streaming freely down her face. William reached out, and she clung to his hand as if it were her lifeline. She was there, Emily whispered. All that time in the orphanage, she was there. Do you remember her? William asked gently. Emily closed her eyes, searching her memory. There was a volunteer. She always brought me books. She'd sit in the garden reading. She used to hum Für Elise while organizing the library. William squeezed her hand, feeling his own tears fall. James quietly slipped out, leaving father and daughter alone. The DNA test came back, William said after a moment. But I think we already knew, right? Emily nodded, a small smile appearing through her tears. Ever since that picture in your office, you have her same smile. She paused. Our smile. William pulled Emily closer, hugging her with all the strength his condition allowed. She nestled against his chest, still clutching Anne's letter. I'm sorry, he murmured into her hair. I'm sorry I wasn't there sooner. It wasn't your fault, Emily responded, just like it wasn't hers. At that moment, they heard raised voices again in the hallway. Sarah must have heard about the test results. She can't do anything now, can she? Emily asked, tensing up. No, William assured her. You're my daughter. Legally, officially, in every way that matters. Emily relaxed. Dad, she said for the first time, testing the word. William's heart swelled. Yes, daughter. Can we visit Mom when you get better? William swallowed the lump in his throat. They both knew getting better was becoming less likely, but neither was ready to face that truth. Of course, he said, and we can bring flowers, white roses, her favorites. Emily smiled through her tears. How did you know they're my favorites too? Because you're just like her. William pressed a kiss to her forehead. And just like me. The best parts of us both. Outside the room, James was keeping Sarah at bay, showing her the documents proving William's paternity and Emily's permanent guardianship. But inside those four walls, father and daughter had their own world, united not only by DNA but by something far stronger. The love Anne always knew would exist between them. Somewhere, William was certain Anne was smiling. Dad? Emily called again, tasting the word once more. Tell me more about Mom. And so, as the afternoon light faded, William began sharing all the stories he'd held onto for years. Each memory was another bridge he built. Each of Emily's smiles was another promise fulfilled. The truth, finally revealed, was not an end, but a new beginning for them both. In a makeshift office next to the hospital room, James arranged a stack of documents while William signed them methodically. Emily was at school, a routine they insisted she keep, despite her reluctance to be away from her father. Are you certain about this? James asked, watching William sign yet another document. It's practically your entire fortune. What better purpose could it serve? William replied, his voice weaker than before. I want her to have everything Anne and I couldn't give her before. James nodded, pulling out another set of papers. And Sarah? It's all in there. William pointed to a specific folder. Neither she nor anyone else in the family has any rights. Emily is my sole heir. They'll contest it. Let them, William said, smiling faintly. You're the best attorney I know, James. And now, as Emily's legal guardian, you'll have every power to protect her. James stopped shuffling papers, looking at his friend. I still can't get over it, Will. Being her guardian, it's a huge responsibility. And there's no one I trust more, William replied, leaning back on the pillows. You and Claire always wanted a daughter, and Emily needs a family when I... Don't finish that sentence, James interrupted. The doctors said the new treatment— James, William gently cut him off. We both know the truth. What matters now is ensuring Emily is protected. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Emily came into the room still wearing her school uniform, her face lighting up at the sight of her father. So how was class? William asked, quickly hiding the documents. Same as always, she shrugged, then smiled. I got an A in math. Of course you did, William smiled proudly. You take after your dad. Emily blushed slightly, still adjusting to these shows of paternal pride. She sat on the edge of the bed, pulling something out of her backpack. I brought something, she said, handing William a paper. It's an assignment I did for my writing class, about family. William took it, his hands trembling slightly. The title read, My Family, A Story of Love and Redemption. James discreetly stepped out, leaving them alone. As he read, silent tears slid down William's cheeks. Emily had written about Anne and about him, about how fate sometimes uses strange ways to bring people together. Is it good? She asked hesitantly. It's perfect, William replied, pulling her into a hug. Just like your mother, you have a gift with words. Emily nestled into his embrace, careful not to disturb the wires and tubes attached to him. Can I stay here tonight? William looked at James, who had returned to the doorway. His friend nodded discreetly. Of course, William said, but first, we need to talk about something important. Emily straightened, her expression turning serious. She'd learned to recognize that tone. James and Claire, William began gently, they've been really good to you, haven't they? Yes, she replied cautiously. They're nice. Emily, William held her hand. You know I'd do anything to stay with you forever. I know, she whispered, tears starting to form. But we have to be practical, just like your mother was. William took a deep breath. James and Claire will be your legal guardians. They'll take care of you, give you all the love and support you deserve. I don't want other parents, Emily declared, her voice wavering. You won't have other parents, William assured her. You already have parents, Anne and me. James and Claire will just be an extension of our family. Like Anne planned for me to be for you. Emily was silent for a long moment, processing. Can I still come see you every day? Every day, William promised, though both of them knew that promise carried a ticking clock. James moved closer, sitting in a chair by the bed. Emily, I want you to know we'll never try to replace your parents. We're just here to continue their love for you. Emily looked at James, then back at William. Can I think about it? Of course. William smiled. There's no rush. But there was, and they all knew it. Time was running out, just as it had for Anne. Later, after Emily had fallen asleep on the hospital sofa, William called James over. The school papers, he whispered so as not to wake her. Everything's set. Yes. The scholarship is guaranteed through college, and the fund you created will cover all extra expenses. William watched his daughter sleep. She looked so small and yet so strong. Take care of her, James. Don't let her feel alone again. I promise, James replied, his voice thick with emotion. She'll always know how loved she is. By all of us. In her sleep, Emily murmured something that sounded like Dad. William felt his heart constrict with both pain and love, grateful for having these precious moments with her. You know, he said quietly to James, Anne was right. Sometimes we have to let go to protect the ones we love, but she forgot one thing. What's that? That love finds its way back, always. On the couch, Emily smiled in her sleep, as if agreeing, and William knew then that he had done everything right. His daughter was protected, loved, and carried the best of both him and Anne. It was all he could wish for. Fall was nearly over when William's condition took a drastic turn for the worse. Golden leaves drifted past the hospital window, while inside, Emily refused to leave her father's side. You need to go home and rest, William insisted, his voice weaker than before. No, Emily said firmly. adjusting the blanket over his legs for the 10th time. "I promised I wouldn't leave you alone." William smiled faintly, recognizing in her the same stubbornness Anne had always displayed. The past few weeks had changed Emily. There was a maturity in her eyes that went beyond her 12 years. "At least go get something to eat," he pleaded. "James can stay with me in the meantime." As if on cue, James walked in, and Claire was right behind him, carrying a small basket. "We brought dinner," Claire announced in a cheerful tone, "including that chocolate cake you love, Emily." Emily looked at William, who nodded reassuringly. "Go ahead." 15 minutes. When Emily left with Claire, James took the chair beside the bed. "Did the doctors come by earlier?" "Yes," William replied, breathing more heavily. "They didn't have to say much, I know." "It's okay, James," William interrupted softly. "I got what I needed. I had time to meet her, to love her, to make her understand she was never alone." James took an envelope from his jacket pocket. "I finished sorting out the last changes you requested. The college fund? Guaranteed. The apartment goes to her when she turns 18. Until then, Claire and I will manage it." William nodded, satisfied. "And Sarah? She hasn't been able to overturn any of your decisions." The judge was very clear. "Emily is your sole heir, and Claire and I are her permanent legal guardians." A flicker of a smile passed over William's tired face. "You're a good friend, James. The best anyone could have." "Stop," James pleaded, his voice unsteady. "Don't talk like I'm saying goodbye," William finished gently. "But that's exactly what I'm doing. And I need you to promise me a few things." James took a deep breath, trying to control his emotions. "Whatever you want. First, take care of her. Not just practically, I know you and Claire will do that, but emotionally. Emily, she holds a lot inside, like Anne did. I promise." "Second," William continued, his voice getting weaker, "there's a letter in my office. In the false bottom of the second drawer. It's for Emily, for when she turns 18. James nodded, making a mental note. "And third," William paused to catch his breath, "take her to visit Anne regularly. She needs to know she has two parents who loved her more than anything." "I'll handle all of it," James promised, holding his friend's hand. Footsteps in the hallway signaled Emily and Claire's return. The girl entered holding a small slice of cake. "I brought you some," she said, setting the plate on the bedside table. "Just one bite." William smiled, but shook his head. "Save it for later. Right now, I just want you to sit with me." Emily carefully perched on the edge of the bed while James and Claire quietly left the room. For a moment, father and daughter simply watched the leaves falling outside. "You know what your mom loved most about fall?" William asked softly. "What?" "The sound of the leaves under your feet. She said each leaf told a different story." Emily smiled. "What story are these leaves telling?" "Ours," William answered, his gaze lost in memories. "The story of how a family can be lost and then found again, of how love survives time, distance, everything." "Dad?" Emily's voice trembled slightly. "Yes, sweetie." "I'm scared." William squeezed her hand, summoning the strength he needed for what he had to say. "I was scared once, too. When your mom left, I thought I'd never be happy again. But then you appeared, and I realized love doesn't end. It only changes shape." "How?" "I'll always be with you, Emily. Not like I am now, but in every big moment of your life. When you graduate, when you chase your dreams, whenever you need strength, I'll be there, along with your mom, watching over you." Tears rolled down Emily's cheeks. "Promise." "I promise," William whispered, fighting against the exhaustion consuming him. "And will you promise me something?" "Anything. Be happy. That's all your mom and I ever wanted." Emily rested her head on her father's shoulder, as she had done every night lately. "Tell me more about Mom." And William did. He told her about the first time he met Anne, about how she always saved the last bite of chocolate for the ND, about her dream of becoming a writer. He talked until his voice gave out, until he felt Emily drift into a light sleep against his shoulder. "Thank you," he whispered to the universe, to Anne, to whoever had granted him these precious moments with his daughter, for everything. Night crept in. James and Claire stayed at the hospital, giving father and daughter their space while remaining close by. At some point, Emily fell into a deeper sleep, still holding her father's hand. William fought to keep his eyes open, taking in every detail of his daughter's face. It was astounding how much she resembled Anne when she slept, the same peaceful expression, the slight furrow of her brow. Around midnight, he felt the shift. It was as though something inside him knew it was time. "James," he called softly. His friend was by his side in a second. "Should I wake her?" "No," William replied, his voice barely a whisper. "Let her sleep. It's better this way." Claire approached too, silent tears on her face. "Take care of her," William asked, though he knew he didn't need to. "Tell her stories about us. About Anne, about me, about how we found each other at just the right time. Always," Claire promised, holding his other hand. William glanced at Emily. "My girl," he murmured. "So strong, so brave, just like her mom." A soft smile appeared on his face as his eyes began to close. "Anne," he whispered, "you were right. Our daughter is perfect." The heart monitor next to the bed began to slow. James reached for the call button, but William gave a slight shake of his head. "It's all right," he said, his voice almost gone. "I'm ready." Emily stirred in her sleep, cuddling closer to her father, as if some part of her subconscious knew she needed this final moment. "Tell her," William breathed with difficulty, "that these last few months have been the best of my life." Claire gently draped a blanket over Emily, while James gripped William's hand. "And James," William called one last time, "the letter. Don't wait until she's 18. Give it to her whenever it feels right." With his remaining strength, William pressed a kiss to Emily's forehead. "I love you, my daughter," he whispered. The monitor turned into a single continuous tone, but in that quiet room, surrounded by those he loved, William Foster slipped away peacefully. His final thought was one of gratitude for finding his daughter, for having the chance to love her, for knowing she would be protected. Outside, the last leaf of fall drifted from its branch, dancing through the night air before resting on the ground. As Anne had often said, every leaf tells a story. And William and Emily's story, though brief, was one of love, redemption, and second chances. Emily wouldn't wake until the next morning, but in her dreams, she smiled, perhaps dreaming of a place where her parents were together, where love never ended, where stories had happy endings, even if they came in a different way than we imagine. The cemetery was silent that winter morning. Snowflakes drifted gently, covering the graves with a pristine white blanket. Emily, wrapped in her navy blue coat, the one William had chosen for her, stood between two headstones. On the left, the newer one, its lettering still sharp, William Foster, beloved father. On the right, the older one, Anne Miller, beloved mother. James waited a few steps behind, giving her the space she needed. 6 months had passed since William's funeral. 6 months in which Emily had faced her grief with the same quiet determination she'd inherited from her parents. "Hi, Dad," she said softly, kneeling to place white roses on both graves. "I brought flowers for you and Mom. They're her favorites, remember?" The cold wind brushed her hair like a gentle caress. Emily smiled through her tears. "I'm living with James and Claire now. They're good to me, just like you said they would be. Claire taught me how to make that hot chocolate with cinnamon Mom liked so much." She paused, adjusting the flowers. "School's okay. I joined the choir, and guess what? I'm learning piano. The teacher says I have a natural talent." She smiled again. "I guess I got that from both of you." James watched from a distance, his heart heavy. Emily came to the cemetery every week without fail, talking to her parents as if they could hear. And maybe they could. "It's time," he called gently when the snowfall grew heavier. Emily nodded, kissing her fingertips and touching each headstone before standing. On the way back to the car, she stopped suddenly. "James, I think I'm ready now." He knew exactly what she meant. The letter, the last message from William that he had guarded these 6 months, waiting for the right time, as he had promised. "Are you sure?" Emily nodded, tears in her eyes but determination in her voice. Back home, Claire was waiting with hot chocolate and cookies. The apartment where Emily now lived with James and Claire was smaller than William's but cozy and full of life. Photographs covered the walls, some old, salvaged from William and Anne's belongings, others new, capturing Emily's first hesitant smiles in her new home. James went to his office and returned with a slightly yellowed envelope. "Your dad wanted you to have this when you were ready," he said, handing it to Emily. With trembling hands, she opened it. William's handwriting was firm, different from the shaky lines of his final weeks in the hospital. "My dear Emily, if you're reading this, it means you found your path. I know it wasn't easy. I know there was pain, unanswered questions, maybe even anger. But I hope there was also love. A lot of love. When I met you on that rainy day, I thought I was giving shelter to someone in need. I never realized I was finding my reason for being. The continuation of the story Anne and I began. Your mother and I made mistakes. Out of fear, out of pride, out of thinking we were protecting each other. But love, true love, always finds its way back. Emily, you are the best of both of us. Anne's strength, her courage in the face of adversity. My stubbornness, yes, it's a virtue. My passion for building something lasting. Never forget, you were never alone. Even in your darkest moments at the orphanage, your mom was there, looking out for you in the only way she could. And now, even if we can't be with you physically, we're still right beside you in every choice you make, in every dream you pursue. Live, my daughter. Live fully. Love intensely. Build your own story. And know that wherever we are, Anne and I are so very proud of the incredible young woman you are becoming. With eternal love, your father, William." Emily pressed the letter to her chest, silent tears streaming down her face. Claire sat beside her, wrapping her in a gentle hug. "He knew," Emily whispered. "Even before I showed up, he knew I'd need these words someday." James smiled, sitting on her other side. "Your dad was always like that. He saw farther ahead than most." Emily carefully folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. "I want to frame it," she decided, "along with a photo of the 3 of us." "3 of you?" Claire asked, puzzled. With a small smile, Emily pulled a crumpled photo from her pocket, the image of Anne holding a baby, with William by her side. It was a digital collage James had made, combining separate pictures to create the family that had never officially been together. "It's us," Emily explained. "Our family." A few days later, the framed photo and letter took pride of place on Emily's bedside table. It was the last thing she saw before sleeping, and the first thing she saw when she woke, a constant reminder that she was loved. The following spring, on Emily's birthday, James surprised her with a special gift, the keys to William's apartment. "You can't live there yet," he explained, "but you can visit whenever you want. It's your home too." Emily spent hours wandering through the rooms, touching objects her father had touched, sensing his presence everywhere. On the piano, she found sheet music annotated by William, songs he had planned to teach her. In her bedroom at James and Claire's place, now a teenager's room, Emily made a little corner dedicated to her parents. There, besides the photo and the letter, she kept small treasures. Anne's bird pendant, found among her possessions, William's favorite pen, the worn book Anne had once read to her at the orphanage, without Emily knowing she was her mother. At school, Emily excelled not just in math, like her father, but also in literature, her mother's passion. Her teachers noted an unusual maturity in her, a grasp of life beyond her years. "Where does this wisdom come from?" one literature teacher asked her. Emily smiled. From stories I've been told, stories of love, loss, and new beginnings. One sunny afternoon, 5 years after William's passing, Emily sat at the piano in the large, still empty apartment that would one day be hers. Her fingers glided over the keys, playing Für Elise, the piece that connected 3 generations. James, who had come with her, watched from the doorway. You know, she said without stopping her playing, sometimes I feel like they're here. Not in a sad or spooky way, just here. They are, James agreed. In your smile, your talent, in the amazing person you've become. Emily ended the piece with a gentle flourish, as William once did. I think I understand now, she said, closing the piano lid. Why Mom did what she did, why Dad found me. And why is that? Because sometimes we have to let go to protect the ones we love, but true love always finds its way back. She smiled, echoing William's words. Always. As they left the apartment, Emily paused for a final look. Within those walls, 2 people who never should have been separated found their way back to each other through her. It was a legacy of love she would carry forever. I'm ready, she told James, closing the door. There was no sadness in her voice, only acceptance and hope. Outside, spring was bursting with color and new life. Emily Foster walked forward with her head held high, carrying William and Anne's love, not as a burden but as wings.